Welcome and thank you for attending this training on smoke-free spaces. As childcare providers or preschool teachers, this training is to help you make sure the children in your care have a safe and healthy environment in which to grow and learn. Before we start, let's take a moment to do some self-reflection. Ask yourself, how familiar am I with the dangers of tobacco smoke for children? Choose a number from 1 to 4. If you don't feel familiar at all with the dangers of tobacco smoke, give yourself a 1. If you feel slightly familiar with them, then give yourself a 2. Somewhat familiar is 3, and very familiar is 4. Now let's think about how likely you are to talk to a parent about smoking. Use the same scale you just used. Choose a number from 1 to 4. Thank you for taking the time to reflect. We'll further discuss both of these topics in today's presentation, so regardless of what number you gave yourself right now, we hope you feel more knowledgeable and comfortable to discuss tobacco use by the end. The topics and goals for today's training are: explain second and third-hand smoke and its dangers, understand the different strategies for protecting children from tobacco smoke, and list different quit smoking resources that are available. First things first, children and tobacco smoke do not mix. This likely isn't new information for you, but it's worth a reminder to point out what's in tobacco smoke. Tobacco smoke from cigarettes, cigars, or pipes is made up of thousands of chemicals. Hundreds are toxic, and at least 70 are known to cause cancer. You can see on the screen some examples of the chemicals in tobacco smoke and in which products they are usually found. This can include rat poison, toxic cleaners, lighter fluid, car exhaust, and other products. As childcare professionals, you take great care in protecting children from harm. You put locks on cupboards that have cleaning products in them. You don't let kids run out with scissors, and you hold hands and look both ways before you cross the street. Yet, when children are exposed to tobacco smoke, they're in harm's way of thousands of chemicals that can cause serious health problems. The American Cancer Society says that tobacco smoke slows the growth of children's lungs and affects the brain and how it controls breathing. A child around tobacco smoke is more likely to die of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, have more severe and frequent life-threatening asthma attacks, be sick with things like pneumonia, bronchitis, colds, wheezing, and coughing. They're more likely to get ear infections and sleep poorly. These health conditions also mean a child needs to stay home more often and is more likely to spread illness to other children. In addition to physical harms, tobacco smoke can affect a child's learning. A child who is exposed to secondhand smoke can have decreased academic performance, including a lower IQ and scoring poorly on tests. They often have problems learning important subjects and skills like reading, spelling, and math. They have a higher risk of ADHD and difficulty concentrating that is 3 times more than a child who hasn't been exposed to tobacco smoke. Increased behavioral problems can also be present. This could include changes in mood, emotional instability, arguing, aggression, and destructive behavior. These problems tend to persist into adulthood and adolescence. Being exposed to tobacco smoke significantly impacts a child's development. How is a child exposed to tobacco smoke? There are different types of smoke, which we call environmental tobacco smoke. Secondhand smoke is the smoke that you can see. For example, smoke that comes off the end of a lit cigarette, or smoke that comes after someone has taken a puff and is blowing out. Secondhand smoke is dangerous. A non-smoker who breathes it in is breathing the exact same chemicals that the smokers do from their cigarette, cigar, or pipe. Children can be exposed to secondhand smoke in a number of places: at home, in the car, and in public places, playgrounds or parks, In the United States, most secondhand smoke comes from cigarettes in the home. Take a look at the picture and ask yourself, is this child safe? At first glance, maybe it appears that way, but in the background, you can see that this child is being exposed to harmful chemicals through secondhand smoke. To put it into perspective, a child who spends 1 hour in a smoky room breathes in enough toxic chemicals to equal 10 cigarettes. Would you let an infant or a young child smoke a cigarette? Sadly, that's what children are doing every time they are exposed to someone else's smoke. Third-hand smoke is a type of environmental tobacco smoke and is a newer concept and sometimes thought of as a myth, but third-hand smoke is definitely a real concern. While second-hand smoke is the smoke you can see, third-hand smoke is the smoke you cannot see as easily. It's the toxins and chemicals from smoke that stick to soft surfaces like clothes, hair, skin, walls, furniture, and bedding. Maybe you can't see third-hand smoke, but you can usually smell it. Think about this. Have you ever had someone come into your facility or walk by you and right away you knew that they were a smoker without actually ever seeing them smoke? How can you tell? Because you can smell it. This is third-hand smoke. It's more than just an unpleasant smell. It's actually a dangerous cocktail of toxins, like nicotine and other chemicals that stick to soft surfaces and on clothing. Even worse, it can mix with other chemicals in the air to create new harmful substances. Research shows that this type of environmental tobacco smoke may be just as dangerous as secondhand smoke. Here you can see a before and after picture of someone who washed clothes from a smoker's home in their bathtub. You can see just how dirty the water is in the after picture, and the grime left behind is third-hand smoke. It's an important visual reminder for all of us. Just because a property or facility doesn't allow smoking, smoke and its harmful toxins can still be present via our clothing and other soft surfaces like toys or blankets. While most tobacco smoke comes from cigarettes, tobacco is changing. Electronic cigarettes, also known as e-cigarettes or vaping, are becoming a popular substitute for traditional smoking products. E-cigarettes are powered by a battery to heat up e-juice, which is a mixture of nicotine, flavor, and other chemicals, until it boils and becomes a vapor. A common question is if this vapor is safer than regular tobacco smoke. While vapor from e-cigarettes does contain less carcinogens than tobacco smoke from a cigarette, it is not harmless. The vapor is not just water vapor. There are a lot of poisonous chemicals used to make the e-juice. Some we don't even know about because e-cigarettes are not regulated. And all of those chemicals end up in the vapor. Just like traditional cigarettes, anyone around someone who is vaping is exposed to second and third-hand chemicals. As e-cigarettes and vaping become more popular, caregivers need to be aware of the risk of e-juice poisoning for children. Every 3 hours, a poison center in the United States receives a call about a young child who swallowed liquid nicotine from an e-juice refill. Nicotine is a powerful chemical that can cause damage to blood vessels and cause blindness, organ failure, or even death. It's easy to get confused. E-juice refills come in small, colorful bottles that to a child probably look like toy or candy. Just look at some of the flavors that are available: chocolate, cherry, peach, strawberry. In reality, e-juice refills are full of toxic chemicals that can kill even an adult if swallowed. Make sure to keep them away from children and call poison control immediately if you think a child may have swallowed some. Children are incredibly vulnerable when it comes to tobacco smoke, and that's why we're so concerned. Unlike adults, infants and children are still developing. Their brains and immune systems are not mature yet, so toxins from tobacco smoke do more damage to their bodies than it would to adults. They also have smaller lungs and breathe faster, which means they breathe in greater amounts of smoke. Children spend a lot of their time exploring their surroundings. It's how they learn. Think of how often a small child is laid on the floor or crawls around on it. Their toys are on the floor, and many times they pick things up off the floor and put it in their mouth. This is easy access to third-hand smoke and its toxins that hide in carpets and rugs. In addition to still developing, children are unable to defend themselves from tobacco smoke. If there is smoke in their environment, there is nothing they can do about it. Adults need to provide protection, and we need to be role models. Did you know that a child who is regularly around someone who smokes is likely to become a smoker too? As we said before, children and tobacco smoke do not mix. In fact, when it comes to tobacco smoke, there is no safe amount or exposure. The best way to protect children is to provide a completely smoke-free environment. Before we discuss smoke-free spaces, let's quickly recap. There are several different types of tobacco environmental smoke. Secondhand smoke, the kind that you can see, and third-hand smoke, which is the smoke you can't see, that has toxins and chemicals that stick to surfaces. Both types of smoke contain thousands of poisons and pose serious health risks to children. Let's learn what we can do to protect the children in our care. When protecting children from smoke, we do have help from the law. Thankfully, in Wisconsin, smoking bans make smoking illegal in all public places like restaurants, bars, hotels, and workplaces. New laws are even helping to ban smoking from public housing so that children can go home to smoke-free environments as well. As most of you probably know, smoking is banned in any space that is specifically identified as part of a childcare program. Smoking is not allowed in vehicles where children are riding inside. Even e-cigarettes are banned on properties when a child is present. It's great that the government recognizes the dangers of tobacco smoke to children and takes steps to prevent smoke exposure, but each one of us has a responsibility when it comes to protecting children too. What can you do? Be a role model and make a commitment to never smoke around children. Maintain a smoke-free environment for children under your care. Talk to caregivers, parents, grandparents, and others about the dangers of tobacco smoke. We mentioned before that children who are around smokers tend to become smokers themselves. As childcare professionals, you are role models every day. We understand smoking is a difficult addiction, and we're not passing judgment on anyone who may smoke. But in order to protect children, you should make a commitment to never smoke around them. Not only are you keeping them safe from dangers of tobacco smoke, but you're setting a good example of what a healthy lifestyle looks like. Tobacco smoke should never be allowed inside. That means going outside to smoke and taking precautions to keep the smoke from coming back inside with you. The goal is to keep children's play and sleeping spaces entirely smoke-free. Keep second and third-hand smoke outdoors by smoking outside, reminding guests and visitors of the smoking rules. Consider posting a sign to remind visitors of these rules. Wear a smoking coat or shirt and hat while you smoke to protect your clothing and hair from third-hand smoke. Remove them before you return indoors. Make sure to wash your hands and face with soap and water, and even brush your teeth before interacting with children again. Creating a smoke-free space takes work and commitment, and the only true way to protect others is for smokers to take the steps we just mentioned. The things you see on the screen do not work. Opening a window, turning on a fan, using air fresheners, smoking in the bathroom or basement, they may help with the smell of smoke, but as we talked about with third-hand smoke, the toxins stay behind. This final advice for protecting children from tobacco smoke is probably the most difficult, but it can be important to talk to caregivers about the dangers of tobacco smoke. It's great that children are in a smoke-free space when they are at school or childcare, but what happens when they go home? Are they exposed to smoke there? To identify which children under your care are at risk for tobacco smoke exposure, consider adding the question to your current intake or health forms that asks about smoking. It could simply say, "Does anyone in the house smoke?" Once you have that piece of information, you can use it as a conversation starter. Share your concerns for the child's health and development, but do it in a way that avoids judgment and criticism. Remember, smoking is an addiction, and many smokers don't want to cause harm to others. However, it's usually not as simple as just quitting. Be empathetic and understanding. After all, you want what's best for the child. Something that can be helpful is using I statements, which prevent putting blame on the smoker. Instead of, "Your smoking is a health concern to your child," try, "I am concerned about your child's breathing." Show support and ask if it would be okay to share resources about creating smoke-free spaces. Before we do a practice conversation, let's quickly recap again. How can we protect children from smoke? Be a role model. Don't smoke in front of children. Set a healthy example. Maintain a smoke-free environment by smoking outside and keeping it outside, by using a smoking coat or washing your hands and face before interacting with children. Remember, air fresheners and other things that cover up smell are not safe alternatives. Finally, identify which children are at risk for tobacco smoke exposure in the home and have a conversation with caretakers. Let's practice. Scenario: one of the parents in your center smokes right in front of the door. Everyone who comes in or out of the building has to walk through the smoke. You know that there is no safe amount of secondhand smoke exposure. What could you say? Using a non-judgmental and understanding approach that expresses your concerns, you could say something like, "Thank you for being here. When there are kids around, we ask that this be a smoke-free environment. Aside from the dangers of second and third-hand smoke, the kids look up to adults. By not smoking around them, we are setting a positive example." Something else you could do is contact the center's administration. Let them know that you're concerned and offer them a smoke-free window cling to put on their property as a reminder to all visitors. Perhaps they could also address the smoking issue in their next newsletter to parents. Here are some other conversation tips to help you feel comfortable. Remember, the most important thing you can do is avoid being critical or judgmental. A conversation will go more smoothly if both people feel understood and respected. Make a list of reasons for talking to someone about smoking. Have that list and help you sort out your thoughts and stay on topic in the heat of the moment. Pick a natural time to talk to the smoker. It's probably best not to point it out while they're smoking, but perhaps it would be appropriate to bring it up during an update on the child's progress or learning. Finally, be polite. If the person you're talking with is not willing to meet your requirements, try to find some common ground. It might take some practice to feel comfortable having these conversations. Consider finding someone you trust to have an imaginary conversation or incorporate these situations into your staff meetings. Practice what you're going to say when you're going to say it and how you're going to say it. Remember, a caring approach without judgment. It's possible that there are people in your life who smoke and are interested in quitting. Though we don't have enough time to talk about it in depth, here are some things you can do to support a smoker who is ready to quit. Let them know you care. You care about their health and you are excited that they are taking an important step to improve their health. Listen to them. Get to know where they are in their attempt to quit. Why do they want to do it? What are their challenges and frustrations? Point them to the right resources. The Wisconsin Tobacco Quit Line provides counseling and free nicotine replacement therapy such as patches or gum to anyone wanting to quit smoking. The First Breath program through the Wisconsin Women's Health Foundation provides free counseling to help women and families quit smoking. In addition to First Breath, the Wisconsin Women's Health Foundation also offers the Smoke-Free Families Texting Program. This is a free texting program with a focus on smoke-free spaces and keeping kids and children smoke-free. Contact information for both services is on the screen. Check out the First Breath website for more information. As we finish up, I want to once again point out that your role is important. Children need smoke-free spaces to be able to grow and learn. As childcare professionals, it is your responsibility to provide safe and healthy environments. You are role models and important influences on children who you see almost every day. Thank you for taking the time to learn with me today. In closing, I want to return to the self-reflection we did at the very beginning. These are the same 2 questions you were asked. I want you to once again choose a number for each one. My hope is that you feel more confident in your answers and have new knowledge and skills to take with you from today's training. Thank you for listening. Please remember to fill out the post-session survey. The first 50 people to complete this survey will receive a $10 Subway gift card. Please contact the Wood County Health Department at 715-421-8911 if you have any questions or concerns.